So I'll do a quick introduction. My name's Russell, thank you, Suraj. I'm head of artificial intelligence for a really large technology company. You might not have heard of us. CGI, it's a French acronym, actually. It stands for Conseil Général et Informatique. We're headquartered in Montreal, but we work right the way across the world. And we're not dissimilar from Accenture or Ernst & Young or Capgemini, those sort of organisations. We offer a full spectrum of IT services. Some of you will have worked with my colleagues. Here in the UK, we're about 6,000 or 7,000 people, and we tend to focus on critical national infrastructure. So we're really well represented across central government. A lot of our local government clients we've done in partnership with Jadu, where Jadu are providing those front-end services that you're very, very familiar with, and we tend to operate in the back end, really. Or we tend to work with the complexity of large-scale outsourcing. I thought what I'd speak about, rather than talking about our services, I thought I'd try and pivot the agenda to give you some reflections on artificial intelligence for a company like ours. And I thought that would be useful to the agenda. So is there anything else I should say about the introduction to CGI? No, probably not. So my role, it has 4 elements. I'm responsible for the internal enablement program, which means pivoting all of our staff to using AI tools in their day-to-day and moving to an AI front end of all our business as well. So that's the second piece. That's kind of, if we learn a load of lessons by pivoting our business, what then do we do? How do we translate that into a useful set of services that we can take to customers? The third part of it has become, there's so much investment going into artificial intelligence. It's been about drawing synergies between different industry groups. So we work across financial services, oil and gas, transport, healthcare, higher education, central, local government, quite a lot of investment in defence as well. And we've learned very, very quickly that in this world of AI, there's a lot of synergy between our sectors that we work in. So the third part of my job is to try and distill out those synergies between different groups. And then the fourth part of my role is about training and enablement for our team. So I thought I'd finish with that point as well and make some points about that and my observations about how it's affected us rather than necessarily how it might affect local government. I hope that's useful. And I'll try and make lots and lots of time for questions as well. So if you've got questions, interrupt me, put your hand up and ask about a point that I make. I think the first thing I was going to say, it's a bit trite, but a lot of commentators will tell you we're in one of those great wave scenarios. This is not just a tsunami that's hit our business. This is a tsunami followed by another tsunami, followed by another tsunami, followed by another tsunami. I think, Suraj, you did say there that we're not at all, rather than being unaffected by what artificial intelligence is doing to us, the technology companies have been more affected by anybody. So it's a little bit trite to use Hokusai's painting. I'm better if I just put that depiction of lots of waves coming again and again and again. And I think that will become true for every single industry. Yeah. So some of the observations I'll make about how we're coping with that wave affecting us and what we've done. And then a little bit about our product portfolio and what we've done with our product portfolio and lessons we've learned there. I am going to touch on ChatGPT as well, Suraj. And some observations I've got about the change management process, but I've pivoted my agenda just to reflect those points that were made earlier on. So the 4 topic areas then, the first of which is our investment in operational efficiency. And I know that's common to industries because I talk to all industries, but just at the moment, imagine those 6,000 people in the UK, about 1,500, maybe more of those are software developers. And we have moved every single software developer away from a legacy tool set into a novel AI-powered development environment in the last 6 months. The productivity gains for us, well, globally, we've been really, really careful about measuring that change. So we've even gone to the extent, would you believe it, of asking our people to do a task outside of an AI environment and then do it again with an AI-powered tool set behind them. It's a little bit difficult to measure productivity gains in that way. But globally, the tooling that's available to us has improved our productivity perhaps 10 to 30% in the software development sphere alone. Locally, here in the UK, there's some facet to the nature of the business that we do. It's probably because we do have a lot of investment that goes into local services in the UK, and there's a sort of commonality of languages, but perhaps we've delivered a 20 to 40% productivity improvement in this year alone. Imagine what that's doing to the sort of price points and your ability to model how many people you need for a particular job and what price you might charge for a particular client. It's moving extremely quickly. And that's in the software development sphere alone. We've applied the product tooling to everything we do where we're providing platform engineering, providing cloud environments for clients, managing those cloud environments. Typically for us, it's managing some pretty horrible legacy computing environments alongside modern environments in either the Microsoft tools or the AWS tools or the Google tooling as well. And that kind of 20 to 40% productivity improvement has been repeated across our businesses right the way into our contact centres. Our contact centres are probably scaled just under 1,000 of our staff are working on our desks right at the moment. Most of those are IT service centre rather than citizen-facing contact centre. But we've moved all of the contact centre to an AI-enabled footing where, we haven't stepped into AI chatbots, to be honest, for user-facing services. But all of the knowledge articles that are powering our agents, they're all delivered by AI. And all of that has happened in the last 6 months. So our tooling will take all of the information we're receiving about problem reports across all of our application services, distilling those, sanitizing those, stripping out sensitive client information, turning those into remediation tasking reports for our engineers to go away and fix it, automating all of those processes straight away if we possibly can with no human in the loop. And then rehydrating the reports to turn them into useful knowledge articles for your service desk teams. And all of that pivot has happened in the last, 6 to 9 months as a result of generative AI. But I was going to make one point about operational efficiency. So Suraj, you mentioned your experiment with ChatGPT. I'm afraid, and I apologise for it, I've become a little bit of an evangelist for ChatGPT, and it's unexpected. You're right to make the point that AI is not just generative AI, and it isn't just ChatGPT. But alongside our relationships with Microsoft and AWS and Google, we introduced OpenAI as a strategic partner this year. And we've just been running a 3-month experiment. We've pivoted the best part of 2,000 of our people into ChatGPT. Sorry, it's not one-upmanship at all. But the surprise for us was just how big the productivity gain has been through generative AI. And one of the big lessons, forgive me, I haven't worked up a really good narrative around this, but it's changing our opinions of change management as well. We've pushed a new tool out to our people without a great deal of working out which business processes might deliver the biggest bang for the buck. It has been part of that experimentation process that you describe. We've been really careful about doing it. We've put really, really, really firm guardrails in place and really strong guidance. And right from the chief exec down, we've tried to build enthusiasm for that experimentation. But kind of touching on your theme about accessibility, there's some emergent properties come out when you do that. So I was really surprised in August. I run weekly surveys about how all these AI tools are going and how the change programs are going. With ChatGPT, I got a really surprised piece of feedback that one of our staff members said, listen, thanks very much for providing me with the license. I have ADHD and dyslexia, and I've been using it for the last couple of weeks just to help me with my written correspondence. He was a business analyst, so he's responsible for sitting in front of clients and discerning out requirements and that business engagement type role. And he said, the tool is genuinely helping me, both to save a little bit of time, but it's just making me happier in my job because I'm more confident about my correspondence. I've always had that underlying anxiety about whether my work was up to the mark. We didn't think about it we didn't pause for thought. We have really strong diversity and inclusion communities right the way across the business. So we made ChatGPT available to everybody in the neurodiversity team, the neurodiversity inclusion group that we run. And I don't think you'd do that. I don't think you'd spot it through a top-down consulting approach. You'd ask me 6 months ago, I perhaps like Jadu would say, well, we'll come in, we'll work with your business teams, we'll work out where the biggest pain points are and where the most bang for the buck for using this tech. But all of a sudden, the entry level has just dropped way much lower. Well, way much lower. Terrible English, that is. But things are changing, and things are changing really, really quickly. They'll affect local authority citizen services, they'll affect tech houses like us, they'll affect all of our blue light services. We work a lot with intelligence and policing. Everybody's being impacted. And my plea is really, in the face of this wave, the most important thing we've learned is we need to be resilient, resilient and flexible, communicative. So, if you have any questions about the operational efficiency gains, that's sort of where I was going to leave it. I've become a convert, and this is artificial intelligence, particularly generative AI, is going to affect everything we do. So we've taken those learnings and pushed them into our client-facing set already. So the CGI teams that are involved in the business analysis and engagement, they're all building off our own lessons learned. They're not sort of speculating or doing classroom-based training about how to implement this. I'm sheep-dipping absolutely everybody in direct experience so that they can advise you as well as possible. So touch on two really exciting bits of technology, just because I think they might be interesting to you. One is, so we're investing in our consultants and their business processes, but also in our product set. The first of those I'll touch on is a concept called the digital triplet. We've deployed this now into healthcare deployments for the UK. Loads of you will be familiar with digital twin, the concept that you've got some real world entity and you model that in a digital environment and you can experiment with that. I'll go down the healthcare use case. Healthcare use case, the first sibling is your patient. The digital twin becomes a representation of their conditions and how different medication might affect them, what the healthcare pathway might do and might result in. But typically at the moment, it results in a really complex, especially for a complex condition, a really difficult set of data, even if you'd start dashboarding the outcomes, really difficult bit of analysis that requires a very high-end clinician to interrogate and understand and work out what the consequences might be. Lots and lots of those spreadsheets that you refer to. Well, the concept of the digital triplet, the third sibling, is you use the LLM to do the work. So you use the likes of ChatGPT or other LLMs are available, of course, and you use the large language models to discern that meaning for you, to allow you to interrogate the second sibling with a natural language prompt instead of needing to understand all that numerical data and being able to understand all the clinical pathways. That's had quite a lot of purchase in this year, but again, it's a 2024 innovation. The digital triplet is emerging into our healthcare teams, the NHS healthcare teams as we speak. So we've got a couple of engagements in flight around that technology right now. And then I was going to give you another example where our product set has pivoted. I can imagine that a lot of you have CCTV services pointing out at different facilities. Especially here in the UK, we do have a lot of installed base for CCTV. We've implemented the large language models. We've created our own transformer model and trained our own transformer model so it can discern meaning out of, well, to be honest, any video stream. Doesn't have to be a CCTV, but we've optimized it. As I said, lots of our clients are in critical national infrastructure. Imagine policing, intelligence, defense, civil nuclear, that sort of energy generation, those sort of clients. But we've created the LLM, so as it sees the video feed coming through, it can discern meaning from a live video feed. So our first client in the UK is actually the national rail operator. And they're looking for autonomous ways of alerting immediately if there's any damage to fixed infrastructure. You know, it's a very, very expensive thing for Network Rail to do, to deliver the preventative maintenance regime right the way across the estate. But they've got an awful lot of CCTV cameras that are trained on facilities and fixed infrastructure. Now, what our services are doing, we've moved from small-scale prototype through to what you might call medium-scale prototype in this year. With CCTV cameras that you've already got, it's trained on those facilities. It's not just alerting, but it's discerning meaning. It can tell you a van has hit a bridge. It can tell you it looks a little like there's erosion on a bridge or a gantry. Conceptually, I say conceptually, very carefully, with those CCTV cameras that are trained on platforms, it can tell you if there's an individual who's exhibiting suspicious behaviour, or maybe they look like there's a problem with their well-being. Because you drive the camera with a natural language prompt and you say, can you tell me what's happening in the image? Can you tell me if there's somebody behaving in this way? And I say conceptually because if you were going to use it for those purposes, you would need to train our model with lots of imagery of people who are going to harm themselves, and we haven't done that. But in a local authority environment, you might have those CCTV cameras that are sitting in a waiting room or in a hospital and saying, is there somebody who hasn't been seen to? Is there somebody who's, who might you might be worried that they're going to harm themselves? So for me, the local authority discussion has been those sorts of use cases. Can it help us make sure the inclusivity for everybody who's absorbing council services, who's taking on council services? So I thought I'd give you a feel. It's not just about the consulting for us, it's about the products as well. So everything we're making now has changed as well. And then my last 2 points, I can cover those really quickly. The go-to-market for us has changed as well. So when we talk in events like this, I have to be able to draw down and say, we're doing this thing for defence, and you can use it in a local authority environment. And by the way, I've learnt this thing in healthcare, and I can apply it to an energy debate. And we've never seen anything like this before. We've never seen technology that's as portable. So again, Suraj, back to your point about people looking for the next role, I could only encourage you to be super vocal about your findings, because it's really relevant to every other industry. It's another feature of the wave, being resilient when there's unexpected change there. One of the things that we can do is be really vocal and communicative, where we're doing some good stuff. And the last point I was going to make was about training. So 6,000 people in the UK, you can see that really we've changed everything about the nature of our business. And the hardest bit about that, I think, has been demystifying AI for our people. People are terrified, but they're terrified because of the media. And it's really quite trite, honestly. The most significant thing we've been able to do about that is put AI in everybody's hands. The experimentation that you spoke about, I think it was either Northants or Camden. It's exactly that experience of giving it to everybody in the organisation, the biggest community that you can, to overcome concerns about responsible use, ethics, bias, drift, transparency, trustworthy AI. Give it to people so they can see and learn. So exactly back to the point you made about it is digital change. The same rules do apply. The way you disabuse people of those fears, for me, has been give it to as many people as possible. And I think that was what I was going to say. My lesson, we are facing a wave. We're facing a wave in every industry. To stop it crashing around you and being thrown in every regard, the best thing we can do is build resilience in all our teams. Thank you. Hope that's useful.